provide the mounting for the painting.
Not stupid at all. That's actually like, it's more than her.
So they have done an incredible job of just simply mounting a show at scale. I mean, museums don't even attempt this, so I wanted to just give a little wrap. I'm also really in awe of the artists, and I think it's the mastery, the technique, and the perspective. And finally, I was thinking about it, and I thought, the hope. Because if people can take ties and turn them into art, and take photographs with their selfies, take photographs with their iPhones, it's something other than a selfie in front of some monument, then we have hope that we will change people, make people happier, and have them collaborate more. Because this is a show based on collaboration, right? So I did start painting in 2010. My daughter was 15 and left for China, and I was just stunned. I didn't know what to do. I simply worked, and I realized I was really unhappy. And so I went to City College and studied with Len Morawaki. He has his website. He's a very modest man. He's an incredible teacher, and like all great teachers, he has that knack for going by your painting and saying, there, you need to change that, and then walking on. I always liked the walking on because he never elaborated very much, but he was always right. It was always there that you had to fix it. I'd like to see him someday show here as well. I studied with him for over 10 years. I attended his workshops, and I'm a rank amateur compared to the people in the show. We used to argue whether an abstract painter had an idea as they approached a canvas and a plan, or whether they just go at it. And I would rush from work, driving across town at 6 o'clock to get to the class, and I was the thrown on the canvas type. By the time I had set up, the rest of the class was finished. So I just pulled out the paints and went at it. I didn't know what I was doing. And, but oddly enough, when you turn a canvas or you use canvas in a horizontal fashion, it invokes the landscape tradition, right? And so, I took the canvas, not only turned it horizontally, but I turned it inside out. I painted on the back side of the canvas, which was covered with a kind of brown burlap, which was gridded. So it gave the painting texture already. At the time that I was painting, I realized, and if you saw the other paintings in the series, you realize I used really vibrant colors. And I realized that I hated black in my paintings. And so that became, I think you used the word challenge. The challenge for me was, I hate black. Let's paint with black. Let's mix blacks. Let's use black out of the tube. Let's just make everything black. I have 12 paintings in black at scale. So I really went at it. Part of that inspiration was, I don't know if people saw the show at the MoMA, Barnett Newman's Stations of the Cross, which are plain white, beautifully painted paintings with strips of black that move. And it's based on the Stations of the Cross. And I saw them and was just stunned by this control and this use of black. And the placement of the black is more moving than any Stations of the Cross that I ever saw in a church. And I just thought it was amazing. So, challenges I think move your art. So this painting started out probably like a more friendly, floral. But again, I had a challenge in my life. I was diagnosed with cancer at that time, and I had terrific care. But at every stage of the treatment, something went wrong, and I ended up at UCSF for weeks. So when I started it on the Black series, so many things came out that I didn't even know that I was feeling. And so I think that question that we kept posing in class do you have an idea? Do you have a plan? Yes, I think you do have an idea. I do think you have a plan. It's just maybe not evident to you at the moment that you start, right? It just starts to emerge. And there is a transition. So this painting, so it started off happy, and I wasn't too happy. And so the ochres and the blues became increasingly dark until I had something so dark, and I realized that through reduction or abstraction or even destruction, that maybe I could get to a point where I might like it. I think there's always a point. I think you always hate your art, frankly, and then I think you get to a point where you think, okay, it's okay, and so I took a whole bucket of gesso and, in a completely unprogrammed way, started, painting out what I had. And the painting is 6 feet by 4 feet, so these paintings are quite large. So everybody in the class used to have to help me just get them up because they were so either long or tall. But that's exactly what happened here. It was a process of painting out, and I finished it, and actually we had a small show, the class show type thing, and somebody came by and said to me, "Oh, were you thinking of Van Gogh and the last painting he painted before he died?" And I don't know if you know his wheat field with crows, but of course then when the person said that to me, I looked and I thought, yes, this is a painting in a way. The crows maybe represent death, and there is that symbolism there. I think, again, that going back to the question of abstract, do we paint with an idea? I think if we're looking at art, we pull from other people's art, which is why we should look at a lot of art, the ideas that can inform us and move us forward, much like everyone has described. So that's it. And it's appropriate, it's way up there in the sky. Sure.
I have a question and a comment. First of all, you mentioned Van Gogh, and I'm a big fan of Van Gogh. You mentioned most artists don't like their painting, and that was a big problem for him. That was one reason that he was reluctant to help show off his pieces. He relied on his brother Theo to help, show his own pieces off. But he was always extremely self-conscious about his pieces. Like sometimes he liked them, sometimes he hated them. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned hating black, and then delving into doing several pieces with black. I'm just kind of curious if there was an emotional aspect of that, like were you trying to pull out something dark? Can you something just say that?
Yeah, I think, well, those 12 paintings came as I was recovering from cancer, so I think I actually was very angry. And everybody in the studio would come and look at these 12 paintings, and there was actually one that was so dark, people see images in it. Witches and owls, and I didn't paint a single one of those, I'll be honest. People would come and they didn't like the 12 black paintings. And there was a friend whose husband also at the same time was being treated for cancer, and he was the only person, he used to sit and stare at them. And he was the only person who I felt sort of understood, I really thought he did understand. Whereas the other people, I think, were suitably frightened of them. I mean, I think some of them are frightening. Sure.
I think you used the word amateur. Mm-hmm. Were you describing yourself in that? Because I just wanted to say that it's, what's the opposite of amateur? Not master. Professional? Okay, well then it would take a professional or very curious mind who's fearless to be able to approach a challenge like that and want to explore it more. I just wanted to commend you for that because not everybody does that because you have to be outside of your comfort zone. And it turned out to be beautiful, and it's like you only really arrive to those places after you challenge yourself, right? So.
No, when you use the word challenge in your work, it really resonated because I think that's what that's what moves your heart along. If we always paint what we know, comfortable or good at, then it's not going to have the message really, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I would like to just add to what she was saying, because what I see often in all forms of art is that professionals are often bound by rules that they learned in college and go by, whereas an amateur is not really bound by anything. So they might have some basic understanding, but then they just kind of go off on their own, and they oftentimes make pieces that are far better than the professionals.
Well, I hope it continues in that direction. I really have to thank my teacher, Glenn Moraki, because he was, he let his students have that range. And as a teacher, I think that's hard because you do want to teach technique and do that. But he was able to tolerate, so to speak, the disasters as well as the accomplishments. I am trained as a poet, and when I mentioned that to someone, they said to me, "Poets train?" You know. And I was like, yeah, they read a lot, and they write a lot, and they write a lot of poems, you know. And God just comes down into you and you're enlightened. In any event, I am sort of moving into that area of trying to figure out how to incorporate language, poetry, but not just like Cy Twombly did with just words, but actually the full-on communication in a painting. And so I haven't figured that one out, but that's where I kind of see the poetry moving into the art, maybe the painting moving into the poetry.
I just wanted to comment how I think it's that you're so brave. You're so courageous, because going through a time of your life when it was probably one of the most challenging. I mean, you can see it in the canvas, and like black also represents rebirth.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So as I look at it, I see like a lot of rebirth. So I mean, I think it's amazing how you were able to channel your emotions and really use it as a therapeutic.
Yeah, I couldn't have gotten through tech, to be honest. It was even worse than the cancer. I mean, at least you were surrounded by people that were empathic with cancer. You're just not when you're in tech. And then to beat it, so yeah, the painting was a salvation, and I really do believe in the life of the mind. I think that, that's the greatest gift you can give people is give them art, to give them intellectual constructs that explain the world, and I think even if you're alone, that's a solace. So, thank you.